PHNX Cardinals podcast presented by the DraftKings Sportsbook app, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review. I'm Johnny Venerable, joined as always by Mr. Bo Brock, Damien Anderson, former Arizona Cardinal running back, the pride of Northwestern. Gentlemen, 8 days removed from the 2022 NFL Draft, and boy, do we have plenty to talk about as folks line up in the chat. What's up, Sean? Bo, how we feeling on this Wednesday?
Feeling great. We got a lot to talk about. Patrick Peterson continues to want to talk about his former organization. As always, with petty Patrick Peterson, he had nothing nice to say about his former organization. I was surprised to see what Chase Edmonds had to say, but we'll get into that talk after we get, we're almost a week away from the first round of the NFL draft. It's almost draft day as we're going to take on the Ainsworth and have an incredible draft party there. Excited about it. But the Arizona Cardinals tied to an absolute just electric prospect.
Damien, you and Frank did a breakdown of running backs and receivers recently that we'll have up at gophnx.com for members later in the week. But let's start with Jameson Williams, Damien. So before we get into the blurb from Albert Breer, Monday Morning Quarterback, your takeaways from why the Cardinals could be infatuated with somebody like Jameson.
Explosiveness, a game changer. We've seen what Tyreek Hill has been able to do, and you see at Alabama going in the SEC, being able to stretch the field, outrun defenders, and just be an athlete. When you make, grown men, great athletes of the SEC look like boys, and you could score at anywhere on the football field, run every route, and have premium speed, I mean, you're a desperate need in the National Football League. And that's why I could easily see why the Cardinals would want a guy like this on their roster. I mean, he's only going to make everyone else better, right? Whether it be D-Hop, Rondell Moore, Zach Ertz. I mean, the list goes on. Obviously, Kyler Murray, most importantly, a guy that just fights for yards and gets upfield. I mean, he would be a great addition to have. I mean, I'm always going to go back, though, Johnny. Is it what they need right now? And to me, I know that we're talking about wide receiver, so I'll say this for another pod, but he's a great pick. I just don't know if he's what they need.
So what Damien is alluding to is the fact that per Albert Breer of the Monday Morning Quarterback, it was released today in a, let's call it a chat Q&A about the Cardinals' interest in a receiver at pick 23. And basically the information read as follows. So Mr. Breer was asked about the Arizona Cardinals' interest, and he said, quote, the Cardinals have their radar at a receiver at pick 23. He goes on to mention in the same article that the Cardinals are looking for speed opposite DeAndre Hopkins, that it was because once upon a time they wanted to pair Andy Isabella with Hopkins. That, of course, has not worked out, right? You think about somebody like A.J. Green, who his skills are diminishing. They want to upgrade, which is great. They want to upgrade that wide position. Breer goes on to say, I've heard it's easy to pair somebody like Jameson Williams because of his speed. I've got it sourced, gentlemen. They're infatuated with Jameson Williams. It would not surprise me if they had him ahead of Garrett Wilson as their top receiver in this draft. And Breer goes on to mention he would not discount, and we heard the same thing last year about Devontae Smith and Jalen Adams, by the way, with the Cardinals potentially trading up for Jameson Williams should he fall closer to them. Now, there's talk about him, Bo, being a top 10 pick. We'll see. But Breer quickly also mentioned somebody like a Sky Moore, a Memphis's Calvin Austin, maybe doing a reclamation project with Jalen Reagor. Do they like Chris Olave because of his speed? But it's clear, Bo, like they would love to get Jameson Williams, and I don't think we can discount them trading up for him at this point.
Yeah, you don't want store brand Jameson Williams. You want the actual thing, right? You want the brand. You want JMO. And if you want him, go get him. I mean, Chris Mortensen with the report saying he's a top 10 guy. And, a lot of people are really trying to figure out how this wide receiver order is going to go. I was watching Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks break down their wide receivers. They're saying 6 guys. And, I mean, if it's 6 guys, it's going probably, who's going to be there at 23. I think when you look at where the wise guys in Vegas are saying Jameson Williams is going to go, it's going to go before 23 as well. So,
correct.
If Steve Keim wants him, if it's his guy, I mean, what are you willing to do to get him, Damien?
You got to go up to get a guy, the guys that we're talking about, the Drake Londons, the Jameson Williams, the Olaves. I mean, at least to like 15, 16, and under that to get a Jameson Williams. So I just don't foresee that happening. Like I do. Is it a need? And to me, I know that we're talking about guys to fill that role, but what is Rondell Moore there for, guys? Like that's what I'm going to throw that out there. A guy with speed. I know he doesn't necessarily have the ideal statute, size, but he could book and put in the right situations. He can make things happen. So I think we're getting, it's natural to get away from that and get enamored with these guys in the draft. I think Jameson Williams is amazing, but I'm wondering, okay, we got two similar guys, Andy Isabella. Rondell Moore hasn't really had, the same opportunities as Andy Isabella. How is that going to play out? Because if you get a guy, top 10 pick, what does that do with your second round pick from last year?
And that's a great point, Damien. I think that a lot of people are thinking, well, isn't Rondell Moore supposed to be the speed guy? Like, don't we have that already? Don't we have a poor man's, hopefully Tyreek Hill? Not according to Albert Breer and company, which is consistent, by the way, gentlemen, to what we've been hearing about Treylon Burks. Now they've had a private visit in Arizona with Treylon. They met with him at the combine. But here's what scouts are saying about Burks. His 40 time is troubling for teams, 4.55. It doesn't bother me, but it supposedly is bothering teams. And that plenty of folks, this is from Breer's same article, do not see him in the same tier with the Ohio State receivers. I'm assuming Jameson and Drake London. Now, I like Burks. You guys like Burks. We all we want Burks in Arizona. I got an article, gophnx.com, about my infatuation, why I think it's a perfect pairing. But it would make some sense. We're starting to connect the dots here. It's like, okay, well, he's not the fastest guy. He's an inside-outside, a little bit of a tweener. He's physical, which they don't have, but the Cardinals are infatuated with speed, Bo. That's what they want, for better or worse.
Right, and they think that complements probably DeAndre Hopkins better than a guy like Burks. I mean, even though Burks, you can kind of have a Swiss Army knife and be more versatile as far as what you want on your wide receiver core. To answer Damien's question, I think Rondell Moore, even he can slide into get some reps, get some snaps in the backfield now with Chase Edmonds playing for the Miami Dolphins. I think that's a guy that can kind of help you add speed to your running back core, even though, that's not your traditional move with a guy his size. But you can find ways to get more of the ball. Zach Ertz the ball. I think DeAndre Hopkins is obviously going to be the key to this and making this all work out. But if Jameson Williams, if you view him as taking your offense to the next level, I just don't understand why you would kind of wait and see how like if he goes top 10, you can't control that. Like, how are you going to get back in the
same thing with like Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith? Like, they weren't obtainable guys.
But if it does shake out to where Philly was able to kind of finagle getting, was it Devontae Smith at 11, right? Yeah. They got him after they traded with Dallas, and Dallas went out and got their guy at the pass rush spot or at the linebacker spot, and Parsons. Then you can say, okay, what are we willing to give up here? Is it our third round pick? I mean, it's not going to completely just bankrupt you as far as your draft capital. But if you want him, I mean, Steve Keim's been pretty good as far as his resume in making trades. I mean, it only cost him a third to trade up for Josh Rosen. So
third and a fifth, yeah,
third and fifth to go up from 15 to 10, probably similar. You
would assume to get from 23 to striking distance, I think you would have to give up your first round pick next year. Similar to what the Bears did last year. Now, they may have paid a quarterback luxury tax, go up and get Justin Fields for where the Bears were picking. The Bears were a playoff team 2 years ago. Then they traded up for Justin Fields. I think what was that, pick 10, 11? I think Jameson Williams is in striking distance if he hits the teens. If he's in the top 10, that's not realistic. It's not realistic to do a Julio Jones once upon a time Atlanta to whatever that was, 6. But I think we've reached the point now where a future one for Jameson is not off the table. We've got some people in the chat I need to acknowledge. Jalen Blair throwing shade at me. If Johnny's in love with Burks, he's the Rosen of wide receivers. Listen, a lot of people like Burks. I like the idea of taking Burks at 23 more so than giving up a future one for Jameson Williams coming off an ACL. But that I would still equally love it. I would love any of these receivers in the right scenario. Just depends on the asking price. Who cares? This is a really good point by Rick James, 2345. Who cares about 40 time? John Ross is the fastest ever to do it, but he's terrible. I think that's our biggest defense, Damien, of something like Burks is he plays fast. I don't give a crap what his 40 is.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of guys. A lot of guys in the National Football League who you see make rosters aren't the fastest, but the coaches can trust them and they get out there and they make plays. And it's not about how fast you run; it's about how you play the game of football. And you know, what I mean, I always have to tell my son, like, you're not. This isn't track or this isn't weightlifting. This is football. You choose the best football player. And I think that's what it comes down to. I mean, we get it. That's what we have to do, right? That's the only information that we have, right? We have game film, we have intangibles, and now we have measurables, right? And that's from the combine or pro days, and that's what we're going to do, continue to compare. So then you look at the other variables. All right, who did they play against? You know, how did you do against these guys? Is it similar competition or better? So that's just the nature of the beast, right? When you're comparing and analyzing, I would just go, I like Treylon Burks because he's a dog. He played in the SEC. He had production. He was able to separate from defenders. There's a multitude of things in the National Football League that you could see he could do with a guy similar to Deebo Samuel. And I think he provides a great, I'd say change of pace for the traditional receivers that the Cardinals have right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And having a guy like him on the team, I think, it would be perfect for Cliff's, wheelhouse and what he's trying to do.
I put it in my article, Bo, quickly. The physicality, I love DeAndre Hopkins. I love Zach Ertz. They are not physical like this man. Now, he has to do it at the NFL level, that being Burks. But I would say everybody in this receiving core, and I would include Christian Kirk in this as well last year, goes down relatively easily. They have trouble making people miss, right? Rondell in year 2, let's see what he does. Hopkins is a yak guy. Burke will run through you, will run over you, stiff arms. He's like a running back with the Cardinals do not have anybody like that and haven't had anybody like that since peak Anquan Bolden.
But Johnny and Bo, I think the question is, do they need to move up to get him?
Right. Yeah, I mean, you've got Treylon Burks, and according to this podcast, that's who they should be on. But as you're also reporting, they're infatuated. That's the word you use, infatuated.
Correct,
at Johnny Venerable on Twitter with Jameson Williams. So if that's true, what are they willing to get their guy? Because I mean, and how do they view, potentially, because what the average draft slot is for Burks is 23.5. So he should be right there for the Cardinals. So if they need to move up one spot, two spots to get him, if Jameson's off the board, that's a little bit easier. But how to get up, and how high do they have to get up to get Jameson Williams? I think that's really what we're trying to get to the bottom of. And if Steve Keim, if he views him as just, this is a guy that's going to take our offense to the next level. He's got the game-breaking speed that we lack, that we can put wherever we want, and we can bring him along, and he can be a fixture with our franchise quarterback that we're going to probably pay a ton of money to. This is going to be a building block going forward. This is going to be Patrick Mahomes' Tyreek Hill to really kind of take his game to the next level. I'd be very curious to see what they're willing to give up, if anything, to get into a spot to draft Jameson Williams.
What I've heard is that they view him as future number 1 receiver. And there are questions about Chris Olave and his ceiling. Will he ever be better than a high-end number 2? There's questions we know about Burks and his top-end speed. I think just we assume Garrett Wilson's going to be off the board. He's going to be a top.
Do you have questions, though, about his ability to evaluate the position when you look at who he's drafted?
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, but I think that we're on the same, like most people right now. Is there a faster riser in the draft than Jameson Williams right now? You'd be hard-pressed to find somebody who's gone from he tore his ACL, he'll be a first rounder, probably in the back end, to he could go top 10. So that makes me feel a little bit better. Now, when I hear all the garbage about the small school guys and out thinking the room, and we're working out the D tackle from UConn, that's where I get a little scared.
Offensive tackle, at least.
Yes.
Or like them being tied to a center, you would say?
Yeah. Here's what I will say. You look at the first round right now. I think the sweet spot for me, he gets past the Jets. I don't think the Commanders are taking another wide out. They got to figure out Terry McLaurin's situation. If he gets past Minnesota at 12 and you call up the Houston Texans, they're looking for a veteran receiver, right? And they need more picks, I would assume, for their rebuild. I think you would want to jump ahead of Baltimore, pick 14. Now, I know Baltimore took a wideout last year, and they've got their situation with Hollywood Brown. Doesn't sound like they're going to pay him. So I think the sweet spot right now is between 12, 13, 14. And to get up 10 spots for Jameson Williams, should he fall outside the top 10, the asking price is a first rounder next year. It has to be. So if you're willing to give up that first, great. Now, if I don't think he gets past like the Saints at 16, the Saints at 19, once the Eagles at 15 and 18. We know the Eagles wanted Calvin Ridley this offseason. They didn't get Devontae Smith last year. They wanted Devontae, right? And so, or they got Devontae Smith. I'm sorry. But they've been looking for a veteran receiver. You cannot, if you're Steve Keim, wait to the back half of the teens. If he falls, you got to get aggressive. You got to go. If you want him in the early teens, Bo.
Yeah, and what I'd be very hesitant to give up a first round pick. I mean, think about it. We talked about
that's the asking price, though.
I know. What I mean, you're going to give up a first round pick for a guy that is going to probably not to start the season on your roster.
I'm not, but I know. This is
I don't see
article.
Yeah,
I just don't think they do.
I call it, as the kids say, that's cap. That's cap. That's cap. I just think that, as you mentioned, if he's not playing at the beginning of the season, I mean, I understand that you could look out for the long-term period of a person's career, right? We're thinking year 2, second half of year 1, it's a longer season. But I just think for those reasons and the needs that they have, I think that they could get what they need in a great player at 23. Unless they move up, John, as you mentioned, from roughly about 9 to about 14. Unless that happens and it requires a number 1, I don't see the Cardinals.
Would you guys give up a second? Would you give up pick 55 this year to go up, let's say, to get Jameson, and you're jumping somebody in the mid to high teens?
So like, I think you need to be at like a second for like 13.
Well, you're not getting to 13 with your second. I'm saying, let's say he falls to 16, 17, 18, that range, and you start making some calls. Maybe the Saints want to recoup some of the picks they lost in the trade up. They don't like the board the way it's fallen. Would you, Bo Brock, give up a second rounder for Jameson this year? Pick 55.
I will. Here's why. Because it makes your offense elite, potentially. It makes your offense elite. It gives you something opposite DeAndre Hopkins that the rest of the league would salivate at. I mean, and opposing defensive coordinators would lose sleep over. To put a weapon the caliber of Jameson Williams eventually in your lineup, and I know that it would make you grit your teeth and sweat about making the pick and giving up the second, but it gets you in a spot. And if it's anybody else, if they fall in love with one of these wide receivers and they're available and they think that it's going to take their offense to the next level, I mean, that's why you hired Cliff Kingsbury. That's why you drafted Kyler Murray. That's why you went out and you got DeAndre Hopkins, to have this offense be the calling card of the Arizona Cardinals. Why not go out and give yourself the best chance, especially when you're trying to woo your quarterback to come in and continue to be the face of your franchise? Why not give him the best tools going forward?
Here's the blurb I mentioned earlier. This is from, again, Albert Breer. I do think if Alabama's Jameson Williams were to drop and be there, I don't think he will. The Cardinals wouldn't stay on the clock very long. Maybe they'll even move up to get him. I've heard what I've heard on their interest, but there's easy logic here too, and that's that DeAndre Hopkins generally needs a burner alongside him. That's why Houston drafted Will Fuller and why Arizona has given Andy Isabella so many chances.
Guys, Rondell Moore is on this football team.
But they don't view him as that, though.
Yeah. He's not that guy.
I mean, he's not a burner. I mean, dude ran a 4.3. He can run.
I think he can be a big part of this offense. I just don't think he can do the things that Jameson Williams can do.
And I mean, are you looking for a Christian Kirk replacement? Because I think
I want an upgrade. I want an upgrade. Whatever.
How I look at it, before Kyler Murray got injured, obviously, DeAndre Hopkins obviously got injured as well. Everyone looked at this Cardinals offense as elite. Would you guys not say that? With Kyler Murray breaking the records and doing
and especially after they added Zach Ertz. Yeah.
Okay, then. So I think that, with guys like James, I don't think that they necessarily require to move up to, 10, 11, 12 to get a guy like Jameson, Williams. I think that what they need to do is get a guy like Treylon Burks at that position, because I think that he can help. And then you can move Rondell Moore around. And then you're not sweating because you gave up a second, a great pick for your organization.
There we go. We figured it all out.
Yeah, we got it figured out here, PHNX Cardinals. Jalen Blair saying, I think what a lot of us are is like, can Rondell Moore just be a better version of Christian Kirk? Can he get those underneath targets? I think he's going to this year. You've got AJ Green.
Yeah, they're going to try for sure.
AJ Green's going to keep the seat warm. He's getting paid $3 million guaranteed on the outside. Right. That's the why. He's keeping the seat warm for somebody.
What was Kyler so good at? The deep ball. I mean, as far as big plays, he was. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find a better quarterback in the league, especially when healthy. and getting time. I mean, Kyler Murray had more big plays than Justin Herbert, Dak Prescott, and he missed 3 games. I mean, Kyler Murray can sling it deep. And if you can get a guy that can run up and under it, Jameson Williams, I don't think there's a better guy in this draft at doing that. Go get him.
When I want to also say, I love Burks, but I'm not saying that he's a better prospect than Jameson Williams, especially when Jameson Williams is healthy.
Yeah,
He's
I
not.
think everybody, yeah.
I think the argument is going to continue to be okay, what's it going to cost you? Because both of them are on the board at 23. You take Jameson Williams, health permitting.
That was the qualifier for Breer too. I mean, he's like, if he starts, if Williams drops, then the Cardinals would be aggressive in trying to make it happen for them.
It's just nice to see. Number one, Breer acknowledged the Cardinals are keen in on a receiver. They have interest in Jameson. Clearly, they've met with Burks twice. They love the kid from Penn State, right? I think they're giving themselves options, right? Assuming the board falls a certain way. I've got it sourced today, gentlemen. Andre Booth, the cornerback out of Clemson, they have concerns with his medical. So I do not think he is an option for them at pick 23. We've talked about it a little bit. Devontae Wyatt, the other defensive tackle, maybe with a higher upside out of Georgia, he's off their board because of character concerns. So now you start to whittle things down. McDuffie goes before 23. Don't you?
I was going to say, I knew our guy DA was going to have a problem with that.
They met with him twice. I would hate it because here's the thing. I feel like with Burks or Williams or hell, even Dotson, one of these kids at receiver helps you next year. George Karlaftis does nothing for me in 2022. And I get you don't draft for the rookie year. I think George Karlaftis could get Vance Joseph fired. That's my take on it. I think he's limited in what he can do. And I think the amount of pressure that becomes on Vance Joseph is immeasurable because of the fact that it's the third consecutive. I don't care if he plays outside linebacking prospect. You've given this coordinator. Stop with the insanity. Stop it.
But I mean, we've talked at length about the void that the defense has, but the offense is going to have to score 100 points every game if you do not address.
But that's the NFL in today, though. I don't have a problem with that.
It's not. I mean, you look at that Super Bowl. Who helped that game? Aaron Donald. Von
won
Miller.
The game. Yeah, they won the game.
They won it. I mean, don't get me wrong. The quarterback.
But I think that a receiver could be solidifying this team again as a good playoff team, a solid. They're getting into the playoffs. They're a wild card. I don't think any move in this draft is going to help them overtake the juggernaut that are the LA Rams. I think you take George Karlaftis at 23 and you're fucking around in November and he's playing special teams does not help you in 2022 get to the playoffs. It doesn't at all. I'm sorry, George. I would rather play Dennis Gardeck all next year than watch George Karlaftis with his 4 sacks in the Big Ten. I don't care what his projections are. Play. If we pass on Treylon Burks for George Karlaftis, I'm going to lose my shit at the Ainsworth next Thursday. Hate to see that.
Yeah, I see the people talking about the slot and what position he primarily ran routes in. But look, I mean, you look at the advanced analytics, and it's a guy who on go routes his open rate was 50%, and that crushes a guy like Drake London, who was primarily an outside guy. So I mean, you got to. I mean, Burks, when given the opportunity, and Arkansas wasn't exactly throw the ball deep down the field. I mean, they were just trying to get their playmaker the ball the most they possibly could, and that's what Burks was. So don't get caught up in where he primarily played in college. And we know Steve Keim doesn't get caught up in that to a fault.
Yeah, he doesn't.
But I mean, you're looking at these receivers, and I think I would be pretty content with 6 of these guys.
Correct. That's the correct answer. Bo Brock. That is what
But I saw in the chat too. I was like, I don't mind Zion Johnson. I really don't mind that pick. I also, it's you're getting a starter right there. And I would love at 20. If you can get an impact player at 23, I'd love it.
Here's an interesting point before we got to move on.
Okay.
My buddy at Seth Cox, RevengeOfTheBirds.com, mentioned to me, you watch the Cardinals flight plan video that they do on their website. Great stuff, right?
Yeah.
Michael Bidwell doing the red carpet signing thing for a lot of these players, right? You know who didn't get that? Will Hernandez. What does that tell you? Nothing. I don't think anything's promised to Will Hernandez. I think if you take a Zion Johnson, somebody like that at pick 23, like that dude, he's playing over Will Hernandez. Like, Will, you want to try to battle for a future left guard spot, and in 2 years when Justin Pugh's gone, that's fine. But like, number one, Linderbaum supposedly is falling because of size. So I know they've worked out Green twice, the kid from Texas A&M, and if they like Zion Johnson, great. Like guard is very much in play to whomever put that in there. But I just thought that was interesting. Like Will Hernandez is a little pet project he's a starter right now. He's a pet project for the offensive line coach, Damien.
Yeah, I mean, you're picking up on a lot of details there. You know, Johnny.
That's what we're doing here. We're going under the microscope. We're doing it all.
I mean, like you said, I mean, you get guys to feel the positions, and I mean, it's always competitive. I mean, that's one thing that, you know, Steve always talked about, that the roster is going to continue to be turning. And I think that you get guys, no one's going to feel comfortable until you get that security, right, of the big deal, which is Kyler's trying to get. He's trying to get paid because he's trying to get that security. A guy like Will Hernandez just has to, you know, do his job. If they get another guy in there, he's going to have to compete. That's just what it is. I mean, it's just football, unfortunately.
Speaking of football, gentlemen, oh, hell yes. A week from tomorrow, finally the day has arrived, April 28th, 4 p.m. at the Ainsworth. Myself, Bo Brock, Damien Anderson, Frank Sanders. The guest list via the Burgang Travel Club, PHNX Cardinals, is too big to name. I'm gonna try to name some. Arizona Cardinal starting guard in the Super Bowl, Deuce Latui, just announced. Sean Phillips, Marshall Shipp come out, a who's who, and then I don't want to say the gem of the group because you're all gems in my book, but Byron Murphy, CB1, will be in the house, meet and greet, get a photo, get an autograph, first 50 in. It's for free, food and drink specials, giveaways. We're going to be live. We're going to be talking for 4 hours, God help us, as we have wall-to-wall coverage of the first round, instant reaction. Bo's going to be at the facility halfway through the night. Pray for him if they draft a corner. It's going to be a great time, gentlemen.
Yeah, what's my instructions if they draft a corner? I have to assault Steve Keim?
I never said that. Maybe give mixed words. Steve, what the hell are you doing? You can't stop the run, Steve. But if he takes Treylon Burks, you know the instruction. You kiss that big bald man right on the mouth and say thank you from PHNX Cardinals. It's good for the Cardinals. It's good for our brand.
And Johnny's going to gently take a Bud Light to the face. Gently. Very gently.
Redeem himself completely.
Yeah.
We'll get to that as we get closer.
We show the graphic. What are we doing?
Come on.
Why we got to do our guy dirty like that?
You're gambling on my livelihood. I'm gambling on the DraftKings Sportsbook app. The NBA playoffs mean next level basketball. Let's go. Last night wasn't great. We're not going to talk about it. It's very sad. Get in on the first round of the action tonight. The Nets are playing right now. I got money on them against the Celtics. They take care of business, money line all day. This week, new customers can bet $5 on any team to win. Get $150 in free bets instantly. You win no matter what. All DraftKings Sportsbook customers can also bet on NBA hoops with same-game parlays. Plus, each day of the first round, which is scheduled to continue here, get a risk-free bet up to $10 if your same-game parlay doesn't hit. No matter what, you're cashing in. It's a call to action. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use that promo code PHNX, bet $5 on any NBA team to win their game during the first round of the playoffs. Get $150 in free bets instantly. You use that promo code PHNX at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. 21 and over, Arizona only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. New customer only. Minimum $5 deposit. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details.
Children 5 and older also eligible for COVID-19 vaccine. The vaccine is the best tool we have to reduce the chances of getting sick. The vaccine can reduce the risk of being hospitalized, dying from the disease. Safe, free, highly effective vaccines are available throughout AZ. Visit azhealth.gov/find vaccine for a location near you. Oh, it happened again. Anytime they fire up the microphone, the cameras over at the All Things Covered podcast, you know that the tea will be spilled from old Pat Pete. P2, guy who I will say from 2011 to 2017 was incredible. Absolutely electric on the field, model citizen off the field. Then 2018 hit, and like many things in the organization, the shit hit the fan, and it was not great. He wanted out. He requested a trade. The next season, PED violation. You saw his production kind of fall off a cliff after that, and he played his way out of Arizona, ended up signing with the Minnesota Vikings, re-signed this offseason. Guys, Patrick Peterson had another former Cardinal on his podcast today, along with Brian McFadden, former NFL cornerback, former Cardinal, Steeler, and also P2's cousin. Chase Edmonds joined them, and they had some comments on the organization. Do we have these in a graphic form? And I can read what Chase Edmonds said about the organization, or I could just read them right.
We've got it in the rundown, my man.
Yeah, we do have it in the rundown, and I've got the rundown right in front of me. Here's what Chase Edmonds was asked about the Cardinals organization.
Too many comments to put in a graphic, frankly.
That's right. Just in terms of the drama, you definitely saw it. The way things ended the last 2 years, it wasn't up to our standards at all, and you could see the frustrations boiling over. But he kind of gets into that he doesn't feel like he feels like there's a culture problem as far as the Cardinals organization is concerned. Doesn't name names. Patrick Peterson agreed with him. Peterson said, and he continued what he's kind of gone after since he left the desert, was that they didn't retain stars. Mentioned Calais Campbell, mentioned Chandler Jones. I'm sure he included himself, P2, in that conversation. Chase Edmonds say, teams with good culture, quoting him, Baltimore Ravens, New Orleans Saints, and San Francisco 49ers, those teams, no matter how talented they look from top to bottom, they just find a way to win damn games. They find ways to continue to be in big games, successful seasons year after year. And, they were pretty much in unison as far as bashing the Cardinals, as far as their culture, and didn't think that Kyler Murray would end his career as an Arizona Cardinal as well.
Yeah, I mean, they both know it a little bit more intimately than we do, right? And I think that P2 is going to continue to be vocal about his position. But for me, when hearing it come from Chase, I'm like, Chase, really? Come on now, Chase. Really? I mean, look at the progress of this team throughout the last 3 seasons, right? When how they inherited this football team, previously to Kyler Murray. What was it? 5, 8, 11 win seasons. You lose J.J. Watt. You lose DeAndre Hopkins. You're comparing apples to oranges here. You're not comparing the same thing in a division that's down. You've won some quality games. The 49ers, I mean, they just got good again. I would say the Arizona Cardinals have progressed over the last 3 years. Do I think they're a little bit – absolutely, 1,000%. Do I think they're being a bit harsh and, feel disgruntled because maybe they're not on that football team? Sure. You're going to be a little bit more fluid, at the mouth. Yes. Yeah. I love it, Johnny. Of course that's what it is. I mean, of course. And that's how I'm like, really, Chase? And I get it. I mean, no one's going to be, super happy, with if they have to leave the organization that drafted him. But I think that Chase had a great career. I think that Patrick was given every opportunity to succeed, out there playing corner. And he was a star in the National Football League.
When guys don't get paid, they leave organizations. It's typically not pretty. And everybody likes to go back to the situation with Tyron and Chandler Jones. Look around the landscape of the NFL right now. Deebo Samuel, which we'll talk about in the last segment, wants to bail on San Francisco. Nobody is happy. Devontae Adams said, get me the hell out of Green Bay. I don't like this organization anymore. I don't want your money. This is not specific to the Cardinals. So we need to understand, do the Cardinals do some things that are a little bit unusual? Do they have shitty uniforms? Yes, but they are not some tire fire, right? And Chase Edmonds, it's unfortunate because he is very close with Kyler Murray. So there's probably some truth to this, but I guarantee you, if the Cardinals present Kyler Murray with $45 to $50 million a year, Kyler Murray is signing that contract and is moving on. Chase Edmonds' money was probably taken from him from a guy named James Conner. He got outplayed in large stretches because he was hurt and he couldn't score touchdowns, and James Conner got that bag. And to be fair, Chase Edmonds, first day of free agency, gets to live in South Beach, no state taxes. Be happy, Chase. Fourth round pick out of Fordham, given a ton of opportunities, right? Was on a team, by the way, that made the playoffs last year. The Vikings with Patrick Peterson didn't win shit last year, right? So I feel like it's like the saddest podcast because it's I hope most people can see through this. First of all, Patrick Peterson does not look good with dreads. If you watch the podcast, it's not a good look on P2. Also, holding a grudge does not look good on P2. He has made his money. He's gotten a series of 1-year deals from a rebuilding Vikings team. No one's paying he's pissed the Cardinals didn't pay him. No one else is paying Patrick Peterson.
Right. No, but guys, I mean, they're talking about, in that article, Chase is talking about, K1 wants to win. Of course he does. I think everyone understands that, but we have to realize the NFL is not high school and it's not college. And you look at the moves that they've made, getting guys like DeAndre Hopkins, getting guys like Zach Ertz making midseason trades, having all those moves, getting a guy like Rondell Moore in the organization, featuring Chase Edmonds. It seems like they had a great chemistry. I just feel like you can't acknowledge you have to acknowledge the elephant in the room. J.J. Watt didn't play, and DeAndre Hopkins got hurt. Those were two big factors for the Arizona Cardinals football season. A tale of two different halves, right? So you can sit up there and point the finger. I mean, I get it. It may not always be perfect. And when it's business, right, guys? That's it. That's shit is going to happen. It is what it is. However, you need to look at the reality of the game and, like, what can I control and what can we do differently, right? You can't replace J.J. Watt. You can't replace DeAndre Hopkins. That goes for a lot in any football team. I don't care what you say. It's going to be an issue.
I mean, this is two people who dated the same person just getting together and commiserating together. It is, and
we've all done it.
Absolutely.
Tell me why you hate him. Tell me why you hate him.
Oh my God.
He's the worst. Yeah, absolutely. But at the end of the day, when you look at it, the Cardinals sent for the Arizona Cardinals is they didn't want to pay guys who were 30 years old a bunch of guaranteed money over a long stretch of time, like Chandler Jones, Calais Campbell bit them in the ass. Absolutely. But in the history of the NFL, that's like an exception to it.
It's an outlier. It
is. It really is. It's becoming more and more common because guys are being able to take care of their bodies even better than they've ever been before. But, Patrick Peterson, like, he's got a really a grudge with this organization, and it's all on him. Patrick Peterson,
sad. I don't like watching
2011. I know it is. It is because of how great he was for so long. But look, to go from the team giving you, history making money at the time to be the top corner, right? And then to have the career that he had. And then when the going finally gets tough after the Bruce Arians era, to just 3 weeks out of the gates in 2018, request a trade, the PED suspension, his production completely falling off a cliff, and the team saying, 31 years old? No, we don't want to pay you. We're going to let you walk. Like, that's football, man. That's not the Cardinals organization. That's just a smart business move. And if that's the team that I'm going to cover, I'm going to root for, I'm going to go with them every time with that, because that's usually how you become a successful organization. You think Bill Belichick's going to pay a guy at 31 to play corner, like, top money?
Here's what we have to all take like a 1,000-foot view of is this team struggles in the draft. They do not struggle paying players in the prime, both like you've talked about. They've also excelled in free agency. And so none of these moves, like the moves that have been done that everybody views as outlier, it's like the Christian Kirk contract. No one in their right mind would pay that. Everybody laughs at the Jaguars. That's great for Christian. Go get your money. But that, we can't use that as a template for Steve Keim and his success. Like, is the culture perfect? No, right? Would you love to? Like, they're not going to be. This is an asinine comparison. I don't know if Chase made this or Patrick. They're not going to be the Steelers when you've never won a Super Bowl. They're not a national brand like the Packers or the Cowboys, right? The hope is that eventually you have some credibility with your fan base. You win a couple Super Bowls, right? That's a maturation process, which, oh, by the way, can only come with sustained success in tune of a franchise quarterback under contract. But they're not like Chase. You went to Fordham University. You got drafted by the Arizona Cardinals, and you thought you were going to the Pittsburgh Steelers? No, only the Steelers are the Steelers. Only the Packers are the Packers. Like, if you have any ounce of football acumen and IQ, you know that this is not how this franchise operates. They've come a long way. They did some winning while you were here. They also had a full-blown rebuild that happened in the midst of your rookie season and your second season. So it's like I don't understand what the
Johnny,
point of this discussion was.
I think one of the comments that, in the chat I saw, not to mention Sal been blasting P2, but anyway, it was about Jordan Hicks and about how he was treated. You have a veteran guy, you sign him, then you draft at that position and say this guy is going to be, the new Xavier is going to be the new up and coming, middle linebacker. Jordan beats him out, and then they release him. I think that's maybe an issue of what.
Yeah, they're not perfect. They make mistakes, absolutely. And you know what? They miss on a lot of draft picks, right? And they fumbled this Kyler Murray extension talk, right? But I mean, Bo doesn't believe that to be true. But I feel like they're going to look to say, okay, our projections are, since Michael Bidwell's taken over as this owner, he's got more non-losing seasons than losing seasons. He's been to a Super Bowl. He makes the playoffs. This is not like, and they also, to Bo's point, like, super aggressive. This fall season, it's an outlier, I think. Ertz, Marcus Golden, Kenyon Drake, all midseason trades, going out and getting a Mike Iupati on the first day of free agency, trading for Chandler Jones, trading for D-Hop. Like, they're not the Bengals in the sense like they don't not make moves. And so if I'm a fan of this team, it's just they don't always make the right moves. But I don't have. Who
has? There's one winner.
Right.
There's one winner
right.
out of the Super Bowl. You know what I mean?
The Rams,
31.
maybe?
Yeah, right. 31 teams are trying to figure it out every year. I mean, that's how this game works. So, I mean, no matter what, unless I think the Cardinals, to your point, Johnny, once they're consistently making the playoffs, maybe consistently making the divisional round, we won't have these questions. But I guarantee you, it doesn't matter. We're still going to be talking and arguing.
It makes me sad that he feels the need to. If you watch the podcast,
it's like Will Smith. Keep my wife's name.
It's like, Pat, you've been gone from the organization for 18 months.
Yeah, dude.
We've all moved on.
Move on, man.
That was the one. That was the one that broke his heart, man.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
The best cooking, the best other extracurriculars that you look for in a good relationship. I mean, he's still thinking about all of it. But those were his prime years. That was with Pat Pete. He's going to get a gold jacket for his time that he spent in Arizona. I get it.
I will say he was amazing. He was amazing.
Yeah, he was.
That's why it's sad. Yeah. That's why this whole thing sucks.
I do. Here's where I agree, though, with Chase from what his conversation with Patrick Peterson, Brian McFadden, is the player empowerment that's going on. And where I think all 32 NFL organizations need to be scared. I mean, what's going on with Deebo Samuel today and what was, come out there that he's fine. Like it's not even a money issue with him in the San Francisco 49ers. It's a usage issue, according to reports. It's like it's NBA level of guys can be happy one day and then, get a fat, long deal with all the money and then just be unhappy the next. That's just, and it's turning in kind of to the NBA as far as guys can, no matter how much guaranteed money's on their contract, they can force their way out at the drop of a hat.
Well, and I think Deebo we're going to talk about this in the last segment, just doesn't like his usage. Kyler Murray, I would argue, doesn't want to continue the way his style of play under his current deal because it resolves in him getting hit a lot and he uses his legs and he's undersized. So everybody has their rationale. But I mean, I don't know if that's a culture thing or if that's just individual players. Most of the time it's a money thing. Like this Deebo thing is an outlier because it sounds like San Francisco's going to pay him like amicably, but it sounds like he's looking out maybe to his third contract, his second big contract, and his body might be broken down at some point because of how Shanahan uses him.
Damien, as a player, and you look at how they used Deebo, I mean, just touch after touch, that's got to be fun though, right? Or is that something you get concerned about, as you get, to money making time?
Yeah, I think all of the above, Bo. And I think that there isn't much difference between Deebo and Kyler Murray in terms of play. I mean, when you look at it, they're both touching the football. Deebo had over 1,700, yards this second in the NFL in terms of offensive production from the line of scrimmage or at receiver. But you look at Kyler Murray, his style of play, being electric, going around the football field, getting hit, it's very similar. So they want to secure that future right now. A guy like Kyler Murray is looking at like, hey, man, every season I've been nicked up. So I want to secure that bag right now. And the same thing with Deebo. Like if they're going to keep on using me and putting me in the backfield and putting me at slot and creating plays for me, I got to be in a position where I feel comfortable. But it sounds like, guys, it's not even about that. He just doesn't even want to be there. It sounds like they're willing to give him the money, but he doesn't want to be there. And, we saw, I don't know if we're going to get to it, Johnny, the tweet from DeAndre Hopkins talking about Carolina boys going to be all right. Like, what does that mean?
I'm into it.
Is he coming to Arizona? Is he coming to Arizona?
Now, hold on. Let's get into it. And we'll talk about an incredible partnership potentially down the line that D-Hop is trying to facilitate. But we have a great new partner in the house. We're excited to welcome OG's brand to the PHNX family. OG's, one of Arizona's first original scratch-made cannabis kitchens, is dedicated to creating innovative and memorable cannabis-infused products that flavor life's journey. It's 420, for God's sake. We celebrate on a day like this brands like OG's who just absolutely do it right. Their motto, flavoring life. And it's something we can all get behind. Let's get tropical. How about their tropical fruit flavors, including guava, strawberry, kiwi, raspberry, orange, and pina colada? That's my guy Johnny's favorite. You've got, if you're interested in learning more about OG's and their amazingly delicious variety of flavors, go to ogsbrands.com. That's OGEEZ brands.com to find an OG's near you. All right, let's get the graphic up. Our guy.
Real quick, Bo, does anybody know I can get a pina colada at the Ainsworth next Thursday or no? Is that not
from OG's? It'll be available.
Yeah, just pop an OG's from your OG's brands bag.
Sorry about that. Continue, please.
All right, let's talk about another duo here. DeAndre Hopkins last year, he kind of spoke the J.J. Watt signing into existence when he did somebody made a Photoshop and he posted on his socials. And then today, after the Deebo Samuel drama came out, he posted this. What do you say, Carolina folks? They play anywhere? Is that what I don't have the quote.
They good anywhere.
They're good.
I thought
anywhere.
It was like a we them boys kind of thing.
Yeah.
No,
I agree,
okay.
Johnny. Yeah, it was.
Okay.
It was. Yeah. I see that. It's like they're good anywhere. Like Arizona, he's going to be able to make it happen. Like in relation to the news coming out about Deebo and wanting to be traded, he's basically saying, "We'll take him in Arizona, but I can make plays anywhere. Like we can make plays anywhere, whether it be Houston, Arizona, San Francisco. When you're a player, you're a player."
And I think everybody agrees, Johnny, that as far as John Lynch and who he's going to take phone calls from, he's going to talk to a lot more people than Steve Keim first.
That landline will get cut off real quick when he sees that area code coming from the desert. Quickly, we touched on culture in the last segment. I think once upon a time, Keim and the Cardinals rescued DeAndre Hopkins from the Texans' culture into their own culture and got him to sign an extension, and they courted J.J. Watt. So, like, to each their own on that whole thing. And I think that I love the D-Hop recruiting aspect of this because it shows you, by the way, D-Hop was at voluntary workouts yesterday, which was great to see. I mean, how do you not love DeAndre Hopkins? He does everything right on the field and off the field. He's a part of the community. I do want a pina colada. No, that is not true. How about this? If they have them, after I chug my beer in record fashion, I reward myself after a hardworking night where the Cardinals
Has the over-under changed? Has the over-under changed?
Well, we haven't put DraftKings hasn't put in an official time on my over-under yet. We're going to preview that
still.
Yes, I deserve the freshest pina colada the Ainsworth can make next week when I dominate my beer chugging challenge live at the Ainsworth Hotel. But in all seriousness, I would love an umbrella. I would love a pineapple just stuck on the side. I would love Deebo Samuel in Arizona. You talk about exactly what they need. And that's why I think we're all infatuated with Treylon Burks. It's like, hey, Burks has got some Deebo-esque tendencies, right? Inside, outside guy. Yeah. Remind me, where did Deebo Samuel go to school?
South Carolina.
So SEC, about the same size. Deebo's a little bit shorter than Treylon. Good ball skills. He's 6 foot. Yeah. Treylon's 6'3". I just feel like let's have this marriage. And instead of trading for Deebo or dreaming about a trade that's not going to happen, let's just go get our own Deebo.
But let's look at a couple things here. Deebo concerned about his usage. Do you think that there's any concern about who's going to play quarterback next year? Do you think he's been in the practices, he's been in games with Trey Lance and his inability to kind of become a rhythm passer?
Bust. Yes, I 100% do. I think that's a real thing. I want to get my numbers. I'm on a projection. I don't want to play running back. I want to be in a rhythm passing game.
He wants to secure his bag, and he knows that that offense is going to use Deebo, lean on heavily on Deebo in the running game because they know they got a solid defense, right? You know what it is. It's basic math, just like Bill Belichick. We don't pass that much. We run the football, do some bubble screens, things like that. Not necessarily a huge margin for error and throwing the football down the field. Play some great defense. Every game is going to be close. And that's what the 49ers are banking on, right? They run the football, don't turn it over and create turnovers and play some great defense. Deebo doesn't want to be used like that. He wants to be on an offensive, efficient team where he's not, taking on all the responsibilities of the offense to make plays.
Jalen in the chat also says they said Deebo's tired of California taxes. Understand that. Gas prices. He wants to be closer to home on the East Coast. I think if a guy's
making his money, it's not going to matter.
Can he go to the Jets, guys? Can he go to the Jets? Who have
absolutely? What? I mean, I think
they have 2 first rounds, right?
They have the best odds outside of San Francisco via the DraftKings Sportsbook app. That you can bet on to secure Deebo Samuel. They have the.
That's a top 10 pick. That's a top 10 pick to give up for wide receiver.
But they've got 2 of them, and you know what? I can tell you right now, whomever they draft is not going to be as good as Deebo, and they've got all this money because of Zach Wilson making no money. I would, if I'm Robert Saleh, I've got a familiarity with Deebo. He helped me get to a Super Bowl as a rookie. That's the easiest trade I've ever made. In San Francisco, if at this point, if he's not going to play for you, like you'd be stupid not to take that.
Get him what's the other coast, other conference?
Is it Philly or the Saints? One of them got 2 first rounders too, or is
they
that
both do? They both do.
Oh, they both
got 2 picks in the teens. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh wow! So I could see that happening too. You know, I mean, I could see that. I could see him going to a team with 2 first-round draft picks for sure.
I think Deebo knows, like, it's a good time for me to put this out here because the draft's next week and people are calling. Now, that they've tabled discussions, it sounds like upwards of the past week. I love this trend. San Francisco's having to deal away prime players. I think
got
it's
their
great.
culture that Chase Edmonds mentioned, you know?
Yeah, it's great culture.
The
Cardinals are better off. The Cardinals are better off
being
without
next to Chase, but
I'm being
Bo
petty
misses
now.
Chase, yeah.
no Deebo in the division means the Cardinals, I think, have a legitimate chance to.
I mean, what happens to? Okay, I think right now people agree that San Francisco's ahead of them right now. It's the NFC West hierarchy. You got the Rams, and then you probably got the Niners edging them out right now.
Vegas thinks that,
but not much.
Yeah, not much. But if you take Deebo off that roster, I think the Cardinals are back in that 2 spot.
Correct.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
You can't have Trey Lance starting and not have Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, even though it doesn't give the Cardinals any more of a prime position to get a wide receiver, because then that becomes a priority for San Francisco. With whatever first they pick up, they're probably going wide receiver.
Guys,
but they will not.
I know that we keep talking about wide receivers, but
Damien, don't.
You know where I'm going.
Don't say his name.
I'm not going to say Karlaftis. I promise you I won't say his name. But I will say, if you look at the division and you look at the defenses, what are they led on? What are they led by? San Francisco, their defense. Their pass rush.
Yeah.
That's what the Cardinals, I think, are. I mean, don't get me wrong, you could always improve. And I love what you're doing with Treylon Burks. And if any one of those top 5, 6 guys drop to 23, absolutely. However, with what the Cardinals have defensively, are you guys okay with that? Like, you guys,
you better be, because you've used all of your spoils the past 2 first rounds. Like, you don't get any more first round picks, Steve, on defense. You have to make it work with what you have, and I haven't seen what you have because you haven't played your rookies. So I think this year, first of all, let's be clear about something. Vance Joseph, to our best of our knowledge, did not get a contract extension. They could be running a completely different defense this time next offseason with a new coordinator. If they have let's say they bottom out defensively, Keim and Cliff aren't getting fired. Why do I want to sink yet another first round pick in a pass rusher that may not fit my scheme a year from now? Vance, you go out, make it work with the guys you had in your building last year. You know everybody. You've seen everybody. Devon Kennard's back. Make it work. And if you can, great. But I'm not giving you any more firsts for you to screw around with. No way.
But I mean, I'll say it again. Is it all Vance, or is it a disconnect between?
It probably is both.
The scouting department and what they're running, right? Hey, we just got the best available guy. Make it work, guys. All right. You know what I mean? Like, pound it. Talk to you later. You know what I mean?
I would tell Vance Joseph, go pick whom you want on the free agent market, and we will pay for them after the draft. I am not giving you George Karlaftis, as much as I dislike the prospect, at 23. I'm giving Cliff Kingsbury either an impact offensive lineman or an impact weapon to help something to help Kyler Murray. An investment on Kyler Murray. Enough defense. Enough. That's why I said if they pick a corner with the way this
guard.
I'd love it.
A guard?
I love it. Yeah, because you know he's going to play right away. And this team gets eaten alive on the inside by Aaron Donald and Armstead for San Francisco.
I feel like your heart would sink if they got a guard.
No. Because you're getting one of the best guards at 23.
Well, yeah, you would. And as far as Cliff's offense, his interior pressure is key to slow down, and that would help you in the future in keeping Kyler Murray upright. I think that's
huge.
It's huge. Yeah, it's huge. Absolutely. So Zion Johnson, I think that's a nice consolation prize to the wide receivers.
Green, the kid from A&M. So much good stuff, guys. We've had a banner draft conversation today. I'm glad I'm fired up. People in the chat are fired up. PHNX Cardinals is fired up. I want to remind everybody, become a member at gophnx.com. I plugged my article, shameless plug, if you will. Treylon Burks, why he's just what the doctor ordered. That's live right now at gophnx.com. You can read it for 50 cents if you want to become a member, right? You pay under $60 for the year. You can get a free t-shirt like this, the Bird Gang t-shirt, which I may or may not be rocking. Bo has the black and white tee. We're going to be potentially sporting our new hats next week at the Ainsworth. Unless I want to opt to show off my perfectly coiffed hair. Damien's got an undershirt on, but it's incredibly fitted and impressive on Damien's svelte physique here. But again, under $60 for the entire year. PHNX Merchandise Locker. Get a free t-shirt. Gentlemen, we are just over 1 week away. Ainsworth Hotel. Quick plug. again, remind you, go get your RSVP now. Come and hang out. You're going to be sitting around next week. It's max capacity is 100. So once we hit 100, that's it. And you're going to be sitting around next week saying, man, I should have signed up for that. Go do it now. Cardinals Live next Thursday at the Ainsworth Hotel. I'm so excited. Byron Murphy, Damien Anderson, Frank Sanders, Marcel Shep, Sean Phillips, Duth Latui, Arizona Cardinals content. Keim will be speaking to Bo Brock that night directly. The two men will lock eyes. I can't wait.
Tomorrow, it's the most useless press conference of the year. It's the pre-draft press conference where it's going to be Cliff and it's going to be Keim. They tell you nothing. They sit there for like 20 minutes and they tell you nothing about who they could pick in the draft. But it is going to be interesting to see if anything about Kyler comes out tomorrow. We'll have that for you on tomorrow's episode.
Did I call it a hotel again? It's not a hotel, but you could say we're having a hotel party in the restaurant because that'll be a good time.
Okay.
The Ainsworth is a restaurant.
It's a restaurant.
Not a
it's
hotel,
not a hotel. I'm so excited. I want to remind everybody, be sure to like, subscribe, leave us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. Bo, Damien, I can't wait to dissect the hell out of that press conference this time tomorrow. But until then, we'll see you later.